The last work. Torque walked past the racks of cooling metal and stopped at the far end of the forge room. The apprentices followed, unsure of themselves in the old master's space, the way young dwarves always are when they've just earned their first apron. He stopped in front of the statue. It was carved from living stone, dark grey and smooth, set into the corner like it had grown there. A dwarf. One arm raised above his shoulder, fingers closed around a smith's hammer. Eyes shut. Body leaning forward with the weight of a swing not yet fallen. The stone was warm. It was always warm.
"Master Torque?"
one apprentice said.
"Who is that?"
Torque ran one thumb along the statue's raised knuckles. He did not look away from the face.
"Sit down,"
he said.
"I'll tell you a story, and you will listen like your lives depend on it. This was 60 years ago. I was 17. Not a smith, not an apprentice. A miner, that was all I was. I worked Passage 7, down in the lower tunnels of Carrick-Dur, with a pickaxe, a lamp, and a half-eaten lunch I carried in a worn canvas sack. My floor was simple. I thought small things weren't worth noticing. A cracked support beam was someone else's problem. A loose stone in the ceiling was probably fine. I moved through the world with my eyes down and my mind on finishing my shift, and I told myself that was sensible. But I had one thing nobody else did. I could listen to stone. Not the way a miner checks for collapse, one ear pressed to the wall. I mean, really listen. The way rock breathes when something deep below it shifts. The hum that moves up through 100 feet of mountain, like a note from an instrument with no name. I'd had it since I was small. Nobody had ever called it useful. The night everything changed, I was alone in Passage 7, lamp burning low, arms tired, the day nearly done, and the stone started humming. Wrong. Not a settling sound, not a shift in the rock, something lower, something old, a sound that did not belong in living mountain. It moved up through the soles of my boots and into my chest and made me stop breathing. I told my foreman. He told me I needed sleep, but the sound stayed with me. So I went to the only person I thought might take it seriously. Aldrak. You've heard the name. Every dwarf in Carrick-Dur has heard the name. But let me tell you what he was actually like when you stood next to him. Old. Old enough that nobody kept track. His hands were the first thing you noticed, knuckled and dark with forge scar, but steady, precise. I once watched him set a rune into a copper disc smaller than my thumbnail. He worked for most of an afternoon without stopping, without blinking, and when he was done, it was perfect. Not good. Perfect. His flaw was stubbornness, not the angry kind, the quiet kind. The kind that meant he would sit with a failed piece for 3 days before he'd admit it wasn't going to work. He'd been told to rest. He never did. He'd been told some metals couldn't hold runes. He proved otherwise. He was not a man who stopped. That was simply who he was. His wound. I only understood it later. His wife had died young, his brother a few years after, his only child in a cave collapse when the child was 8. What Aldrak had left was his work, and in his work he put everything he didn't have words for. When I found him that night, he was at his bench, grinding a lens for a commission no other smith had been willing to take. I told him about the sound. He put down the lens. He didn't ask me to repeat it. He didn't argue. He sat very still for a moment, the way a person sits still when something they have been half expecting finally arrives.
"Show me,"
he said. We went back to Passage 7 together. He pressed his palm to the wall and closed his eyes. 1 minute, maybe more. When he pulled his hand away, the stone where he'd touched it had gone darker. Not wet, just darker. Like something on the other side had leaned against the wall to meet him.
"The unmade,"
he said quietly. He explained it as we walked back up. There are things beneath the mountain that are older than the mountain itself. Ancient hollows, he called them. Darkness that had learned to think. The unmade was one of them. It had slept for centuries. Something had disturbed it. Maybe our mining, maybe just time. Maybe it was simply tired of sleeping.
If it fully wakes,
He said.
it will hollow the mountain out from beneath. Not with force, with absence. Everything will simply stop being.
I asked what we could do. He was quiet for a long moment.
I can make something.
He said. He said it the way he said everything. Simply, like it was just another commission. I did not understand yet what that meant. He started at first light. I don't know why I stayed. I had no business there, but he asked me to work the bellows, and I said yes. And that became my place for the next 3 days. The forge room was old, older than the halls above, older than most of the walls around it. Rune diagrams covered every surface, chalked and re-chalked over generations. Aldrak moved among them like he had written everyone himself. He drew the design first, a hand axe, small. The blade curved slightly, like a crescent. Clean lines, nothing wasted. Why an axe? I asked.
Because a warrior swings an axe from the shoulder,
He said.
The rune must follow the body's motion. An axe moves from instinct. A sword asks you to think too much.
The metal he chose was not iron. He drew it from a locked chest beneath his bench, dark and dense, and it took the heat differently than anything I had seen. It folded instead of melting. It went dark instead of bright. Then he began the runes. Each one took something from him. I couldn't name what. He looked the same. He moved the same. But his hair, which had been grey, went white between the first evening and the second morning. On the third day, I noticed his left hand wasn't moving. It hadn't gone limp. It had simply hardened, turned the grey of deep stone. The fingers were still curved exactly as they had been when he last used them. He caught me staring.
Keep the bellows going,
He said.
We are nearly there.
When it was done, the axe did not look like anything special. A hand axe, well made, cleanly finished. Runes along the blade and the handle, carved into the dark metal with the steadiness of decades. The kind of thing a master craftsman would be satisfied with, but not famous for. But the air beside it felt still, like the room was holding its breath. Aldrak picked it up once, held it, set it back down on the bench. Then he sent for Brom. Brom was not the kind of warrior you'd pick out of a crowd. Medium height, medium build. He moved quiet, the way fighters do when they've had enough practice that every motion costs exactly as much as it needs to, and nothing more. He looked at the axe without touching it for a long moment.
What does it do?
He asked.
It seals.
Aldrak said.
Strike the unmade with the blade and it draws the void inward, collapses it, but it will only work in the hands of the one who carries it.
He did not say what it would cost him to make that true. Brom picked up the axe, turned it over once. The runes hummed, faint against his palm. He nodded.
How do I find it?
Follow the cold.
Aldrak said.
Down. Always down.
Brom looked at him then. Really looked. His eyes found the stone hand at Aldrak's side and stayed there for a moment before moving away. He didn't ask about it. He just gave a short nod, and then he was walking toward the lower passage, axe in hand, and gone. Aldrak turned back to the forge.
Keep the bellows going,
He said.
until it is finished.
What happened in the deep, I did not see. But I felt it. The mountain carried it up to me, the way it carries everything, eventually. Brom found the unmade in the lowest chamber, the hollow floor, a place where the rock was too old and too strange to have been shaped by any hammer. The unmade had no shape I can describe. It was absence dressed in motion, a dark that breathed, a cold that moved toward you on its own. Brom swung the axe. The blade cut into the nothing, and the nothing screamed. The sound came up through 100 feet of stone and shook the walls of the forge room. I grabbed the bellows post to stay on my feet. Dust fell from the ceiling. Above, Aldrak's eyes were closed. His right hand, still flesh, moved above the surface of the anvil in careful, deliberate patterns, finishing the runes, still finishing them. The stone had reached his elbow.
"Bellows!"
He said. I pumped. The forge roared, and something warm moved through the rock beneath us and down, down into the deep. Below, the axe changed in Brom's hands. Not heavier to lift, heavier in the way it landed. Each swing bit into the unmade, and the darkness could not fill itself back in. Brom drove forward, step by step. The cold retreated. Then Aldrak coughed. His hand lost the rune. Just a moment. Just a falter, a slip of the fingers. The kind of mistake that wouldn't matter in any other forge, in any other year. Here, it mattered. The warmth left the axe. Below, Brom's foot slipped on the strange old stone. The axe turned in his grip, blade angling wrong, and the unmade surged through the gap. It touched him across the ribs. Not a blow, a touch, but it took something with it. Brom cried out. The sound moved through the mountain like a bell struck by a stone. I said nothing. I pumped the bellows harder. Aldrak lifted his head, his jaw set. His mouth went thin and hard. His hand found the rune again, and this time it did not falter. I watched his face and watched the stone climb past his elbow, watched it settle across his shoulder, watched his neck go grey and his chin, and still his hand moved, precise, patient. He was almost done. Below, Brom felt the warmth return. He didn't understand it. He had no reason to. The axe simply settled in his grip, level and certain, the runes alive against his palm. He breathed. He planted his feet on the strange old stone. He thought of nothing but the swing. He drove the blade into the center of the unmade with everything he had. The void collapsed. It folded inward on itself, screaming without sound, contracting to a point. And then the point went dark and still. And then there was nothing left of it at all. The axe blade held the seal. The runes flared once, white bright, blinding. Then faded. Silence. Real silence. The kind that arrives when something that has been wrong for a very long time finally stops. I heard none of this. I only felt the hum go out of the mountain. What I saw was Aldrak. He lowered himself to the anvil with great care. His body from the chest down was stone already. His right arm, still flesh, picked up his hammer. His eyes stayed closed. His face was settled. Still. The face of someone who has said everything they needed to say and has only one thing left to do. He struck the anvil. Once. The blow rang through the forge room and through the mountain and through the silence that was opening up below us as the unmade sealed. His hammer stayed raised. The stone finished what it had started, and there he was, standing at his anvil, hammer raised, eyes closed, arm still lifted with the weight of the swing not yet fallen, the face of someone who had put everything they had into one final, perfect blow and found it enough. I knelt at the base of the anvil, and I did not move for a long time. I found out later what Brom said in the deep. He was on one knee beside the sealed foe, ribs aching, breath short, the axe cradled in both hands. He looked at it for a long time, at the runes along the blade, still faintly warm. He said it to no one, to the dark around him.
Only by this, only this axe. I had nothing left. Without this, I was finished.
He stayed there until the cold left the air and the stone floor stopped feeling strange. Then he stood slowly and walked back toward the light. He did not know what the axe had cost. He only knew it was masterwork.
Torque turned away from the statue. The forge room was quiet, The apprentices had not moved.
I was that miner,
Tork said.
17 years old, a pickaxe and an ear for stone, and nothing else worth naming.
He looked at his own hands, old now, scarred, the way 60 years of careful work leave a mark.
I went back to the surface the next morning. I put down my pickaxe. I walked to the nearest master smith's door, and I knocked. I said, I want to learn to make things that matter.
He paused.
He let me in.
Tork turned back to look at the statue in the corner.
Aldrak is still here because this is where he finished. The mountain knew what he gave, and it kept him. He is stone, yes, but he is warm stone, always warm. I have never once touched that hand and found it cold.
He let the silence hold for a moment.
Every great creation carries the memory of those who gave everything for it.
He looked at each apprentice in turn.
When you pick up a hammer, you carry that. Every master who broke themselves making something true. Every rune carver who gave more than they had. You carry them.
He walked to the forge and checked the fire.
Now,
he said,
let's see what you've got.
This has been a chapter from the Negsbane Iron series. Follow at Negsbane for more.